There's a fight between titans that's been going on our planet for millions of years. In the video of the history of Antarctica, we saw how 35 million years ago it was able to change the world from one controlled by the greenhouse effect, one with a lot of heat and no ice, to one controlled by the effect of glaciers in the world, which is our lovely world, with more stable temperatures, snow, glaciers, and the opportunity to go skiing all over the planet. Since then, Antarctica has been fighting a legendary battle against the greenhouse effect, in which Antarctica always comes out winning. Today, we're going to see how Antarctica is fighting in the present against climate change and what secret superpowers it has. Let's first distinguish the types of ice in Antarctica. There is the continental glaciers, snow that accumulates and compacts every year, floating ice shelves when the continental glacier reaches the ocean, but it is still connected to the mainland. When a large part of this glacier that is in the water breaks and separates from the mainland, we call that an iceberg. This is going to float in the ocean until it finds the Titanic and sinks Leo. And there is also sea ice, which does not come from the continent, but it's ocean water that freezes every winter. Today, climate change is affecting the coasts of Antarctica more than anything. Most of the ice that we are losing is the floating ice shelves. That is the glacier that connects the continental glacier with the ocean. These glaciers work like a cork in a champagne bottle. They are holding back all the pressure that is coming from the continental glacier. And this is the news we hear every year of, oh, there's another giant glacier broke off. There's a glacier of the size of, I don't know, New York floating in the ocean. Well, all those are these glaciers, the cork type glaciers. Of course, a bit of this ice is always shed and the continental glacier replenishes almost exactly the same amount every year. But today it is happening on a much larger scale and faster. And that is causing the entire continental glacier to flow into the ocean much faster. So we are losing masses of ice faster than we can recover them. In fact, we pay every year to see this show. We go as tourists to the south to see how the glaciers are advancing and how they are detaching. And the bigger the ice that breaks, the better the show is for us. A cork-type glacier that I want you to at least know the name is Thwaites Glacier, which is here in Western Antarctica. I want you to know its name because its nickname is the Doomsday Glacier. It is the glacier that threatens our planet the most because it is the fastest melting glacier in the world. We can see the difference in melting between this glacier and all the others on the coast. What is so special about Thwaites that it melts faster? The eastern part of Antarctica is well above sea level, so it is protected from the ocean. But the western part is actually all below sea level. We don't realize it because it has giant glaciers on top, and Thwaites is far below sea level. This causes him to behave a little differently than normal. Instead of losing ice only on the front face, nowadays with the increase in the temperature of the ocean, it's also melting below. That makes the baseline of where a continental glacier becomes a floating platform move further back every year. And it's not just that. With the increase in the level of the ocean, water is beginning to enter underneath the entire continental glacier, which makes it slide faster, sort of like a water slide. And that is why bigger and bigger blocks of ice are breaking off and allowing the continental glacier to advance faster. Oh my God! And what does it matter if some ice is lost? Maybe it's better Antarctica becomes available to continue populating. Yay!
How dare you!
In the video of the history of Antarctica, we talked about how the world changed from one controlled by the greenhouse effect, one with a lot of heat and no ice, to one controlled by the effect of glaciers. So if we lose the world's glaciers, we lose the battle against climate change. And the world would once again be controlled by the greenhouse effect. Antarctica and all the glaciers in the world are one of the main factors that help regulate the climate on our planet. It is not because they are a giant block of ice in the world.
Just like Daddy puts in his twig every morning, and then he gets mad.
This is thanks to the albedo effect of glaciers that we mentioned earlier. We will see the albedo effect in more detail on another video, but basically it's the ability of ice to bounce energy from the sun and the ability of water and land to absorb energy. This effect can be seen when we go skiing. When the sun bounces off the snow, it burns our eyes as if we were looking directly at the sun, and the energy that bounces off the snow is so much that you go back home tanned as if you had been at at the beach. Antarctica covers a huge area of 14 million square kilometers, and it's bouncing all the energy from the sun off into space, or at least it used to. Today, Antarctica is losing the strength to fight both against the energy of the sun and also the increase in temperature due to climate change. And continental glaciers are beginning to melt on the surface. When that happens, these gigantic lakes are created. These dark lakes absorb much more energy than the surrounding ice, which makes more ice melt, which makes lakes bigger, which absorb more energy, which melt more ice, which make the lake grow, which absorb more energy, which... Oh, I think I entered into a very dangerous loop here. Okay, so in other places like the mountains, when the glacier melts, the land underneath is exposed. Land absorbs more energy than ice, which makes more ice melt, which leaves more land exposed, which absorbs more energy, which... Oh no, this again?
No, God! No, God, please, no! 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 No!
Now we realize that the current situation is a disaster. The greenhouse effect that has not won a decent battle against Antarctica for millions of years is now beginning to take the lead. But Antarctica is not giving up. Her fight against the greenhouse effect began 35 million years ago, and she's not about to let a couple of apes with cars beat her now. Antarctica has a couple of tricks up its sleeve to fight the greenhouse effect. While the greenhouse effect increases temperatures and laughs devilishly, saying, "Mwahaha, Antarctica, I'm gonna melt all the ice on your surface," Antarctica uses this loss of water to increase its own power of albedo. Antarctica does this by growing sea ice around it. This is because salty water needs lower temperatures to freeze, but when Antarctica sends fresh water into the ocean, it makes it easier to freeze, since fresh water doesn't need to be so cold in order to freeze. This ice grows more and more. The more sea ice grows, the less energy the ocean receives, which makes it colder, which makes the ice grow more, which covers more of the ocean, which receives less energy. And, alright, I like this loop much better! The sea ice is growing so much that scientists predict that it could one day reach the southernmost tip of South America. So, if you're brave enough to walk on very thin ice, you could walk across. Thus, Antarctica reflects all the light that arrives in the southern hemisphere and takes the power away from that greenhouse effect. Unfortunately, the greenhouse effect still says, "I'm impressed with your special ability, Antarctica, but this only works in the winter. In summer, all your sea ice disappears again." "It's true," says Antarctica, "but you don't know that in the summer, I also activate my other secret powers." A strange green snow begins to appear on the coast and islands of Antarctica. It's almost like a giant booger. They are actually communities of plankton and other organisms that have made their homes in the melting snow. These micro plants are excellent at absorbing all the gases that we are emitting and that increase the greenhouse effect. As the shores of Antarctica melt, more of this green snow appears every day, and so Antarctica tries to absorb all the gases and reduce the greenhouse effect. And wait, there's more! Every time Antarctica unfortunately loses a giant glacier off its coast, Antarctica laughs and says, "Ha ha ha, you think you have defeated me, but the battle is not lost yet." These glaciers travel the ocean and create life.
It's alive! It's alive! It's alive!
As the glacier melts, it releases all the fresh water from the ice and also all the minerals that were trapped in there. Do you know who loves fresh water and minerals? Plankton! The plankton is then eaten by a krill, which is eaten by a fish, which is eaten by another fish, which is eaten by a whale. And that's where all the carbon stays trapped forever. The role that whales play on the fight against climate change is also amazing, but we will see it on another video. This entire food chain depends on the detachment of these glaciers and the water and fertilizers that they bring. By creating all this life, Antarctica tries to absorb carbon dioxide and reduce the greenhouse effect. Antarctica is giving it its all. It's increasing its albedo effect as the ocean ice grows and bounces more energy. And it's trying to reduce the greenhouse effect with all its secret powers that absorb CO2. You could almost say that it's bleeding out for the planet. This image is not Photoshop. It is a real place in Antarctica called the Blood Falls. Obviously, this is not a Twilight episode, and these waterfalls are not blood. It's a phenomenon that happens because there is iron that was trapped under the glacier for millions of years. Today, with the rising temperatures and sea level, it is melting and coming out to the planet for the very first time. When iron comes in contact with air, it oxidizes and takes on a reddish color. Imagine coming out to the planet for the first time in your life, and the first thing that happens to you is you burn and rust. Okay, now, for real. Although Antarctica is not giving up, we are increasing the global temperatures faster than she can fight. Antarctica continues to fight its same old battle against the greenhouse effect. For now, Antarctica is holding on as long as it can in its historic battle. But in the last few years, since the Industrial Revolution, we humans have entered the battle of titans. And we joined the wrong team. It's up to us to side with Antarctica so that it can keep fighting. While Antarctica is a legendary fighter, we cannot say the same of its distant cousin in the north, the Arctic. Here, the story is completely the opposite, and it also deserves its own video. Today we saw only one of the factors that influence climate, the albedo effect and the masses of ice. In the next videos, we will be exploring more the other main factors, such as the Milankovitch cycles and the greenhouse effect. I hope you enjoyed the story of the battle between two titans and the secret superpowers that Antarctica has. My channel is actually in Spanish for Latin America, but Charlie asked me to do one of my videos in English, so I translated this one for you guys. I hope you enjoyed it. My aim is to try to talk about climate change and the environment, but I want to tell like an interesting story while I'm doing it. So leave me any comments or ideas or questions that you might have, and yeah, I hope you enjoyed the video. See you next time. Emotion.